Okay, welcome back, listeners. Thanks for joining us on the Hero Whispers. This is Jean Marie, your host and Chief Supergirl, founder of Supergirls. That's 2 L's, the second L for love. Today we have Adrienne JADRIC. She is a fave young woman that I've known for a long time. She's like besties with my son, and we're going to explore her amazing journey from Russia back to Minneapolis, where she's in school. But before we start speaking and chatting with her, Her Highness, we're going to tell you a little bit about the show. And just in case this is the first time you're tuning in, The Hero Whispers is a podcast that we have where we get to share these young women's stories. So Supergirls is all about inspiring and empowering college women to launch and young alums to launch from college to life and helping them with tools they need to navigate, whether it's mentoring or career counseling or networking or whatever it is that they need. We want to be able to provide that for them. We want to be their support network and help them. And the Hero Whispers, we get to actually speak to them and hear their amazing stories and how they're making a splash in this amazing life of ours. So that being said, today we have Adrienne. And let me tell you a little bit about her. She is currently an undergraduate student at the University of Minnesota, Twin Cities. She is studying political science with minors in Russian language and public health. Very busy girl. She is interested in world health policy, international relations, and American politics. While at the University of Minnesota, Adrienne currently serves on the College of Liberal Arts Student Board. She also holds leadership positions as communications director of the Undergraduate Political Science Association and co-president of She's the First. Adrienne has also completed an internship in the office of Governor Mark Dayton and worked as an organizing fellow for Ilhan Omar's Congressional campaign. Currently, Adrienne works at the University of Minnesota Office of Admissions as Specialized and Groups Visits Coordinator. Adrienne, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here and get to chat with you.
Oh my God, I cannot even get over how busy of a woman you are, okay? And super excited and supercharged that you're spending so much time with me lately with Supergirls. I am,
Yeah.
my heart is on fire and fuego.
Glad to hear it.
Oh my God. So I am dying to hear about your broad experience in Russia. And okay, it's like not that many people do it. It's amazing that you were so brave to do it. Can you share how you landed in Russia and what was your most memorable part of the experience?
So I decided to study abroad in Russia because my university requires 4 semesters of a foreign language. So that can be literally anything. I could have done Spanish or, one a more common language, but I figured I would, if I don't do something that I would normally never have a chance to do in college, I'll never do it. So I was like, I'll just take Russian and see how it goes. And since I was doing a different degree that didn't require the foreign language requirement, I started my Russian language in my sophomore year. So I had to finish up that 4th semester my junior year during the spring. And a lot of my friends were going abroad during that semester, and it was like a huge goal of mine to go abroad as well. And so I was just looking at where I could finish this Russian language requirement while studying abroad, and the only place was actually in Russia. And then I was just like, this seems like, a really cool experience to actually get to like live in a country that you hear a lot about, but you don't. It's a place I always tell people like you can't picture it in your head unless you're like from there or have some kind of personal experience. And so I just applied, I got into the program, and then actually going there, my first like memory, I'd say it's the most memorable part because I just remember the exact feeling of like, oh my God, what have I done when I landed? It was February, it was freezing, and like St. Petersburg is like a very, it's obviously very far north, so the days are very, very short during the winter. And so the sun would set at like 5 o'clock and like not rise until 9 a.m. So it was like really short days. And I just remember looking around at a place that was just so foreign to me. And then like feeling obviously really nervous and like just meet all these new people I never met before and my host family. But then like knowing that I have done things like this before where I've been like really uncomfortable and like knowing that this would be like a crazy and awesome adventure. But beyond my first experience, my favorite part was we got to go to the American Embassy while in Moscow, and I got to like talk to, they had people who worked at the U.S. Embassy in Moscow talk to us. So we learned about like the career in foreign services, and like what that's like to live in a foreign country for more than just a semester. So it really kind of showed me more career paths that I could pursue if I wanted to keep doing international relations. So that was really awesome. And then like honestly, like talking to Americans after like being around Russians for so long was really cool also. But yeah, I definitely loved it, and a really awesome experience.
I mean, it was like, go big or go home. That's what you said.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Exactly, yeah.
Go for it.
That's
So,
exactly my thought, honestly.
And you stayed with a host family versus, like, I know my son Mark, for your listeners, my son Mark, I've talked about him being in Sydney, and he was in a dorm or whatever, a college housing situation. So that was a little different in Russia. How did that work?
Yeah, so you had an option of staying in like a dorm situation, but most people, there was only one student that chose that option. Most students chose to live with host families, since there was an intensive Russian language part of the program. For like, there's other half of the students that were doing that, a really intensive language program. That was the big point, was to really learn Russian. My program is more focused on like area study, so my classes were taught in English while I had these Russian courses. But I figured that the best way to kind of get involved in a country is to like live with someone who was actually Russian, and they only spoke Russian to me. So it was like I was never off, if that makes sense. Like I was always having to like think about everything. So that was really hard in the beginning, just because I couldn't go home and turn my brain off like I could do if I'm at home or if I'm in Minneapolis. Like I always have to like be prepared for some kind of like new situation. But I loved having a host family, and I always like tell people, if they choose to go to a country, like host families, you make such a deep connection with them. And like when I left, my flight was at like 6 a.m. when I was leaving, and my host mom and I like both were like tearing up, and I was like, just like I'd turn away and be like, bye. So it was definitely like an amazing experience, and like I got really close with her, and she was really patient with me in terms of like my language skills, and would just like tell me stories. And she majored in linguistics in college, so she would like explain to me a lot of the roots of Slavic words, and it was really like a eye-opening experience too. So.
Oh, can you say something in Russian? Can you say thank you in Russian?
Spasibo.
Oh, I remember that from Sex and the City. Yeah. There was an episode.
Yeah, the Russian. Yeah. It's funny because there's a lot of like, now that I'm not fluent by any means, but now that I'm at least like conversationally proficient, there's a lot of TV and like mass media which has a lot of Russian in it, and I could like pick up on a lot of it, which makes me feel really happy. And like the new show Chernobyl that everyone's been watching, I like can understand a lot of it, and it was like that's like the part that's really rewarding when you finally like get stuff and you're like, yes.
Yeah, there's a reason they did all this. That's crazy. Yeah. Well, congrats on that. That's a huge leap. I mean, that must give you so much confidence now after having accomplished something like that.
Yeah, no, it's like, yeah, it's definitely a challenge. So I'm definitely glad that I pushed through and did it. So.
You are amazing. Okay. So how did you get so jazzed about politics and public health, and what inspired you into these subjects that you're so interested in?
I've ever since I was like in high school, like I've always liked politics. Like it was just, being a high school kid, like you kind of know what's going on, but not super, like not fully like you do when you're more adult. But I took an AP government class in high school. And my high school, for reference, is 62 kids in my graduating class, so very, very small. And so there were only 3 kids in that class, including myself. And they ended up being like, they're like my 2 best friends. And so my 2 friends, they're both guys, and we all had like very different opinions. So this class basically turned into like debate society. We would just like go at it every day. And that like really made me love like learning as much as I can about different policies and like understanding like the world around me in terms of like government policies and things like that, because like I would always have to come to class and like defend my opinion to like my 2 friends who would like just like have like different opinions than I do. So I really loved that, and I like just like learning about that kind of stuff was really interesting in that class for me. And then when I came to college, I just kind of continued it. I was originally majoring in chemistry, but I liked it enough, but it wasn't something that I loved, and I was taking some general courses, and I took a class about politics, and I like knew that's what I wanted to keep doing. I also like I do like my friends and I do like nerdy things. Like we did like a little bet about the midterms and like made a spreadsheet and like tracked like a bunch of competitive races and like put like $10 in the pot. So it's kind of like a Super Bowl bet, but for like the midterms race. So I love that kind of stuff. And then public health. My mom's a nurse, so she like, I heard something's wrong. I'm like, Mom, like what's wrong? Like I have this. She's like, okay, you just take some Advil, like you're fine. But she like really inspires me in terms of public health part, like just learning about like healthcare policies and like how, you know, like the policies that come out of like DC in terms of like healthcare, how that affects like other people in their daily lives, and like so they kind of like intersect with politics. So just like a different, like the minor's more to like kind of help me with my public health stuff and like help me with my political science stuff and like policies and like learning just about like, you know, which policies do the best good, do the most good for like the public as a whole.
I love how you wrap it all together, you know. I love how you tie it all together and make it relevant, and that's I'm sure that's going to help you so much as you forge through the career stuff.
Yeah, I think it's like liberal arts degrees. I think it's important to be really broad, but also make sure that everything at least connects in some way. Like I don't want to just get a bunch of degrees that don't mean anything to what I'm passionate about, and I think that like so it'll be like really helpful. So I can like have a wide breadth of knowledge. So.
Well, between all these leadership positions that you have and your majors, it feels like you're really into making a difference. Would you say that? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I definitely am a person that like when I'm doing something, I like to see the tangible effects of it. Like that is a big motivator to me, like extrinsic motivation. So if I, you know, do something either at work or in my studies where I see that someone has benefited from it, that makes me want to work harder and makes me want to keep going. And I always remember my mom has like always instilled in me that like helping people is like a very important thing to do. So I don't know what I want to do for a career, but I know I want to help people and I know I want to make the world a better place, which saying out loud kind of sounds like naive and childish, but it's really true. Like I really, no matter if I work like in the public sector or private sector, I want to make sure that what I'm doing is beneficial to not only myself, but like the world as a whole.
Kudos to your mom for instilling that in you. I love her.
Yeah, she's a great lady.
So she's definitely been a positive influence in your life in terms of mentoring, right?
Yeah, she like is one, like she'll give me the typical like motherly, like you're doing great, but she also is someone that I know will like kind of give me a reality check when I need it. Like she's always like, you have to have a plan A, but also a plan B and a plan C. Like you need to make sure that you can always support yourself. So she's really instilled in me like that work ethic and making sure that like no matter where I'm going, there's always a backup that I can fall back on, like some kind of skill or something. So she's really into me learning Russian, and she was really excited when I abroad, even though she was like really nervous.
I bet.
Yeah.
Did she visit you there?
No. I think she's been to Russia before, so she didn't come visit me. But only out of my program, only like 2 parents came to visit. The visa process is kind of difficult to go to Russia, so it's like pretty expensive and pretty hard to get. So not a lot of parents actually came to visit. So
even makes it even harder. Even another challenge.
Yeah.
Being that far away.
Yeah.
You're a strong woman. You're a super strong woman, super girl. So I want to hear more about She's the First and your co-president. So congrats on all these leadership positions.
Thanks.
By the way, pretty awesome.
Thank you.
Especially in a big school. I mean, you're talking thousands of people and you're able to get these leadership positions. It's pretty amazing. So what is She's the First and what drove you to that?
So She's the First is like a